Be honest, when was the last time you actually faced a predator? Not a headline about one. Not a nature documentary where a lion does something majestic and then the narrator whispers about your mortality. I mean you, on your feet, staring at a thing that is trying to eat you. For most of you, the answer is never. And if that sounds like a relief, you have not understood the joke yet. Here is the strange truth nobody puts on a nature poster. Your ancestors spent about 2 million years sharpening one skill, staring into the eyes of a predator and not blinking. And you, the apex product of all that survival, reached the top and spent the next 10,000 years quietly building something new to fear. Let me say it plainly so it can't be missed. Ancient humans faced predators with claws, teeth, speed, and a genuine desire to eat them. You face a notification dot that made your chest tighten this morning. The whole question of this video is which one is scarier. And I am going to embarrass you a little on the answer. Before you click away thinking this is another doom and gloom video, it is not. And it is not a nature film either. I am not here to tell you the modern world is secretly worse, and I am not going to pretend the caveman was a fearless gym influencer with no bad days. I am here to show you that you inherited a predator detector, plugged it into the wrong things. And here is the twist you will not see coming. You were never meant to fight the predator. You were meant to use it. So let's set the rules, because fear has rules and the ancient humans were masters of them. We are going to walk through how our ancestors actually faced predators. Not with action hero strength, but with something far more boring and far more impressive. And then, side by side, round after round, with a scoreboard, the way this channel always does a roast. We will walk through what you face now. Before the first round, understand something. This is not a nature video, and it is not a doom video. It is an anatomy lesson on the oldest fear on Earth, and it happens to be about you. So hold 3 things the way you would hold 3 clues, because all 3 get paid back at the end. First, the prey. Remember what it felt like to be potential food. Second, the night watch. The shift some exhausted ancient human worked so the rest of the group could sleep. A shift you never asked for, and a shift you still work. Third, the fire. The small circle of light it drew around a frightened group of primates that had decided, against every instinct, not to run. Hold onto the prey, the night watch, and the fire. We are going to position all 3 of them right against the wound before this is over. Now let's ask the question this video exists to answer. What did ancient humans actually face? Before I answer, let me remove the cartoon. Let's meet the real menu of the ancient plane. Here is what you have to understand about the ancient food chain. When we picture the predator, we picture the big cat, the bear, the great apex of the animal kingdom, and underneath it a frightened, helpless human hoping not to become a snack. The truth is stranger and darker. The ancient human wasn't helpless, and it wasn't an apex. It was the weirdest animal on the plane, prey, predator, and walking vending machine all at once. They had no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no speed worth mentioning, no armor. A cheetah outruns you. A lion outweighs you by a few hundred pounds and has a mouth full of knives. A bear could deal with a small group of you politely. By every measure, the ancient human should have been a snack. And sometimes they were. We have skull fossils with tooth marks in them. Ancient humans really were hunted, killed, and eaten. That is not a metaphor. It's archaeology. So let me build the cast of the ancient horror show so you know what the old fear actually lived with before you compare it to yours. Because the comparison only works if you can smell the old fear first. The big cats were the ambush. Lions, leopards, and the saber-toothed cats that went extinct just around the time the humans got dangerous at being hunted. The leopard was the nasty one. A leopard doesn't care about your group or your size. It climbs, it waits, it drops, and it takes one person at the edge. If you were the edge of the group, the leopard was your problem. The hyenas were the pack. Giant hyenas with jaws strong enough to crack bones. They smelled weakness and they hunted in numbers. The wolves were the persistence. They matter, because later the wolves and the humans make the most important deal in prehistory. But at first the wolf was the one that just would not stop. No ambush, no overpowering, it followed, night after night. And eventually, if you got old or slow or weak, the wolves were there. And the bears, the cave bears. Enormous, heavier than anything a human would meet, and they loved the same caves the humans wanted. This produced, no joke, the first real estate crisis in history. Here is the pattern I want you to notice. Every one of those predators had a strategy. Ambush, pack, persistence, overpower, and everyone was designed around one assumption about the prey, that it would panic and it would run and it would tire. They had no idea the humans were about to break that whole theory. The tool they used to break it is so stupidly simple it should be a punchline. Except it is not a joke. It is the entire plot of this video. Round 1. The ambush. Let's put an ancient predator and a modern predator into the ring and let you keep the score, because a roast needs a scoreboard. The ancient predator in this corner is the ambush. The leopard in the tree, the big cat in the grass. This is the fear that comes out of nowhere. The heart-stopping, hair-raising ambush. It is fast, it is sudden, and it is absolutely lethal. And it was real. We have the skulls with the bite marks to prove the ancient humans really were taken this way. Here is what the ancient human did with that terror. They felt it cleanly. They never had to ask if it was real or in their heads. The grass moved, the fear fired, and they knew exactly what it meant: run or get away from the edge or hold the group. It was a signal. It came with a target, a defense, and an ending. If you survived, the fear stopped. It had an off switch. Your ambush is a thing with no teeth. It's the email that lands carrying the word quickly or following up, or per our last conversation. It's the group chat that suddenly goes silent. The calendar invite from a name you don't recognize, the 2-line reply to your paragraph, the red dot, and here is the scoreboard. The ancient fear came from a real threat with a real defense and a real ending. It was truthful, and it ended. Your fear comes from something with no target, no honest defense, and no end. The ancient fear said run, and it stopped. Your fear says nothing except check again. The ancient ambush was an event. It happened, it completed, and it was over. Either you survived and felt alive at dawn, or the cat got you and it was a dark day. It was finite. Your ambush is not an event. It is a background hum that gives you the same spike your ancestors' heart made for a real leopard, but with no predator and no resolution. A spike that never arrives at anything. So round 1 goes to the ancient, not because they were braver than you, but because their fear was easier. They bought one impossible spike and lived in relative peace. You buy a small spike every day forever, and you have never once been eaten. Round 2, the pack. If the ambush is sudden and over, the pack is the exact opposite. It is the creeping horror of the night, and it is the fear doing the most of the work inside your head at 2 a.m. The ancient predator is the pack. To feel it the way a prey animal does is to meet a completely different kind of terror. The ambush is over in seconds. The pack is not. It is patient, tactical, and relentless. It runs in relays. It does not need to outrun the whole group, only the slowest one, only the one that falls behind. Its genius is that it never has to be more dangerous than you. It only has to be more durable. It wears you down until your knees turn to soup, and then, when the panic finally blooms, it takes you. If you lived among wolves, your fear was not a single strike. It was a constant pressure. The knowledge that something was out there, measuring you, waiting for the weakness. And a nervous system built to handle that never fully relaxes. So the ancient humans did the single most important thing for this whole story. They invented the night watch. Somebody stayed awake at the edge of the fire, back to the group. Eyes on the dark for the moving shine of eyes. One person traded their night of sleep so the whole group could rest. Unpaid, unglamorous, essential. It is the exact job your brain still thinks it is doing when it refuses to let you sleep. Now the modern half, and it hurts more. There is no wolf outside your window trying to eat you. And yet you still wake at 2 a.m., and it is worse. When you cannot sleep and you scroll, you are not reading information. You are paging through a pack made entirely of your own fears running in relays forever. The thing you said, the reply you are waiting for, the email you dread, the future you cannot see. And your sentinel brain, built by the ancient watch to give enemies to the dark, treats all of it as a threat and scans. Here is the score. The ancient pack was real, deadly, and it left at sunrise. It had an ending. The predator had a clock. The predator in your pocket never ends. It comes to your coffee, to your meeting, to the lock screen. The ancient human stared at a real wolf until dawn, and then it was over, and it was an achievement. You watch an empty darkness that you carry everywhere, all the time, with no sunrise. The night watch was a survival gift, but the grass is empty now. Nothing outside the light is trying to eat you. Your old sentinel brain is scanning a peaceful field, and you have decided to keep it awake forever, feeding it fear from a feed. So round 2 goes to the ancient, not because you are soft, because your brain is still doing the sentinel job it was built for, and you handed it an endless pack to watch instead of an empty plane. The predator is gone. You kept the watch anyway. Round 3, the fire. If the night watch was the fear the ancestors bought and never paid off, the fire is the first fear they ever solved. And this round is where the engine of the whole story turns. Let me be honest about the ancient life first, because we are romanticizing it. Before you picture fire, remember that the ancient human was, at the start, a small, shy, nervous creature at the bottom of the food chain. Cold, scared of the night, and eaten. The night was not a comfort. The night was where the predators lived. Then, one night, fire. Someone took fire from a lightning strike, or a generation of dangerous firekeepers passed it down and set it in the middle of the group, and a remarkable thing happened. The fire gave warmth, yes, but more importantly it gave a circle. A lit circle, and inside that circle the predators stopped. The wolves would not cross the firelight. The eyes in the dark stayed outside the ring. So the ancient human who sat fire was, for the first time, the scariest thing on the plain, not because they were stronger, because they carried a radius of light that said to the night, "In here, this belongs to me." And now, the hinge. The fire did the night watch. The exhausted, essential, all-night watch we just gave our respects to, the fire replaced it. The fire never blinked. It watched the darkness so the human brain would not have to. The group could finally sleep because the fire held the border. For the first time in a million years, a human did not have to keep fear. They had an instrument that kept it for them. Now the modern turn, and I will be fair, because I am not trying to humiliate you. You also sit around a circle of light at night, but be honest about what it is made of. The fire was a circle that included everyone. The whole group sat together inside it, facing each other, and the fear went down because of contact. The fire was a social thing. It was the first social network, and it worked because every member of the group was in that ring safe. Your circle of light is a screen. It is not a fire. It does the opposite. The ancient fire drew the group inward and faces each other. Your glow pulls you to a couch alone, facing a void of people who are not there. And the ancient fire pushed the predators to the edge of the darkness. Your screen does the reverse. It brings a pack into the center, as you know from round 2. The economy. The fire bought safety, warmth, and company, and its only cost was wood you had to gather. Your circle of light costs you attention every night and returns alertness, loneliness, and a feed of wolves. So the fire wins this round outright. It turned the dangerous night into a shared, lit, peaceful place, and its inner circle lowered fear. Your circle of light is a colder fire. It keeps you awake. It makes you apart. The cave held a light that removed the fear. You built the safest cave in history, and then you lit a small screen inside it that sorts fear and charges you by the hour. Round 4. The bear. The fire solved the pack, but something bigger, heavier, and completely unimpressed by your circle of light was still out there. This is the round where we drop the idea that the ancient humans ever won against anything. The bear, not the woodland animal from a cozy nature film, but the cave bear. Hundreds of pounds of momentum, knives for claws, and absolutely no fear of you. The bear is the predator the fire does not scare. It does not run from flame. It does not ambush like the leopard. It does not wear you down like a pack. It simply moves through the world certain that it is bigger than the problem. And usually, it is. And here is the strange human problem. Bears also like caves. Same caves the humans wanted. So a human group would show up at the perfect defensible and find they had moved in on a much more serious occupant. There was a long negotiation that the humans handled by picking the caves the bears were not using, and by keeping fire at the mouth, and by never, not once, trying to fight the cave bear on strength. Nobody defeated the cave bear. You cannot outrun it, outstare it, or outweigh it. You could only choose your cave. Now the honest accounting. The ancient human relationship with the bear was not a victory. It was a management strategy. The bear was assigned a wide berth and a fire at the door, and both lived. That is not glory. That is a human strategy, and it is the strategy that has kept our whole species alive. Now the uncomfortable modern turn, because the modern bear is not an animal. It is whichever person you report to. It is the review. It is the expense report, the mortgage, the text from the boss at 11 p.m., the thing you cannot outrun, outstare, or outargue, and it does not live in a cave. It lives in your calendar forever. The symmetry is almost too neat. The cave bear was predictable. It hibernated. It had rules and you could follow. The modern bear never hibernates. It pings on Saturday. It is officially annual, but the dread feels like it lives in every day of the year. The cave bear could be pointed at. You knew it was there and you could decide to live somewhere else. The modern bear is invisible. You cannot point at it. You can only feel it, and it never once leaves you alone. The cave bear, if it stopped you, would end the matter. Loudly, honestly, over in minutes. The modern bear takes pieces slowly, surgically, and each piece takes months. It is slow, it is endless, and it is about you personally. So the score of round 4 is grim. The cave bear was enormous, real, and could physically kill you, and its ancient victim still stood with the dignity of facing something real that you could see. The modern bear isn't even real, and it still has that much hold over you. The cave bear had rules and seasons. The bear you report to has 32 unread emails and no vacation. You didn't even get to wrestle. Hold that, because the bear is not the real enemy. The deepest fear of all was the one the fire could not reach. Round 5, the exclusion, is where this whole video gets its teeth. Round 5. The exclusion. This is the deepest predator fear, and I mean that literally. It is the one that isn't out in the world. It is inside the group. We have spent the whole video painting the ancient humans as brave, together, and fire-wielding, and the predators as out there. That's true as far as it goes. But there is a second ancient fear, and it may be the one your body still knows best. The fear of being left. The ancient humans' only defense was the group. The numbers, the fire, the watch, the shared eyes and ears. If you lost the group, you lost every one of those. Overnight you were a cold, confused animal on a plain full of things that ate it. So the ancient species was selected for one deep instinct: do not be the one left behind. It would have killed you, so it became the sharpest feeling they carried. That's why the question, am I still in? Lives so deep in you. It's not new. It's ancient. But in the ancient world, it was accurate. It could read a real group of maybe 40 people who genuinely kept each other alive. It fired when the group was threatened, and it resolved when the group drew together. Real threat, real signal, real ending. Now, the modern cuts to the bone. Your fear of being left, the very same old instinct, is fired at a group that is not real, not 40 people, and that could never save you. It is aimed at the feed, the follower count, the group chat, the comment section, the interview. And your ancient detector, built to read a real group, cannot tell the difference between these people have actually left me and the algorithm didn't push my post. So it fires anyway. The message read at 1 a.m. and left on read at 1 a.m. The silence, the not invited. This your brain, built to fear the group losing you, reads as the start of exclusion. This is not you being fragile. This is you being accurate. You just don't have the update that says the group you are among is now massive, anonymous, and would not miss you. The scoreboard for round 5. It is the most painful one in the video. The ancient fear of being left out was a true signal from a group that needed you, and it kept you alive. Your fear is a signal from a group that does not need you, and it can never be resolved because you cannot be reassured by an algorithm. The ancient human feared losing people who would die for them. You fear losing people who would not notice. But this round has a counterweight, and it saves the whole idea. The ancient fear wasn't just about not being left, it was about being useful. The person the group kept is the person who contributed, who watched, who worked. The value was kept and the value was cared for. That was the entire reason to be. Your fear is still pushing you, it's just pointed west. It still wants you to be valuable to a group. And you've handed it an algorithm, so it can never be satisfied because the thing that would satisfy it is not an app. It's a person. The fear is not your enemy. It's the most powerful thing you have, currently aimed at the wrong fire. Hold that. The ending of this whole video is about aiming it at something real, and it leads straight into the next round because the human species had an answer for this fear too, and it's the most underrated one of all. Round 6. The domestication. This is the round that changes the whole story. Every round until now was solved by managing fear. The group, the watch, the fire. And now the ancient human does the one thing no prey creature has ever done. They recruit a predator. The real history of the wolf is the mistold part. The version you know says a clever human tamed a nervous wolf. Let me tell you the funny truth. 20,000 odd years ago, some wolf that was a little less shy than its brothers drifted up to the edge of a human fire, hungry to eat scraps. The humans let it. That wolf got through the winter fine. It had pups, and the pups grew up comfortable around the fire. The wolves too bold to be trusted, or too aggressive, they were dealt with and their line ended. So, over thousands of generations, the humans did not tame the wolf. The fire did. It gently selected over and over for wolves that could be near people without danger. The humans and the wolves made a deal. The wolf got the warmth, the leftovers. The humans got a nose and an ear that ran the hunt, and that at night always barked at the camp. A wolf at the fire is the first night watch. The most dangerous thing on the plane walked over and took the watch shift, and it never asked to be paid. The most important thing here for you? That was the species' real superpower. not beating the wolf, but sitting at fire and turning the enemy into family. They didn't have to eliminate every predator. They had to be able to bring one over. Now the modern round. You also have a pen of wild potential around you, and you treat everyone as a threat. The coworker you wrote off. The skill you're certain you can't learn. The conversation you put off. The project you fear. You keep each one at the fire's outer edge, watching it, waiting for it to eat. But you have the ancient trick and you're using it backwards. The ancient sat the wolf down beside the fire. You hold a spear at a slightly larger stranger. The wolf that came in saved you and became the dog. The wolf you leave outside the fire your whole life is the one you lie awake about. So the round 6 scoreboard. The ancient human looked at a wild thing and asked, "What could this become beside my fire?" And it got a dog, a sentinel, an ally. The modern human looks at the same kind of wild thing and asks, "What could this do to me?" And it gets a lifetime of scanning. Both worlds have fire. Only one remembers what fire is for. Round 6 goes to the humans. Our species won not by being the strongest or the bravest, but by being the one that could learn. The thing honed by the fire is not the stone. The stone was a weapon. The wolf was a friend. The weapon teaches you to point it outward. The friendship taught you to ask a stranger, "What could we be together?" And that question built every stable home, every family, every city that came after. But nothing, not even the wolf, solved the last fear, and that one is about you. The flip. We have spent 6 rounds roasting you, comparing your ambush to a leopard's feeding, your sleep to the watch, your phone to the feed, your fear of one person to a cave bear. Now I have to turn the whole thing, and I am turning it because it is the honest center of this video. Let me do the honest accounting first. I have made the ancient human sound like a calm, worried, fire-wielding survival genius who just knew a predator when it moved. Fine, but here is the truth. The ancient human was scared out of their wits constantly. They did not live in peace, they lived in alert. They were scared of far more than the big cats. They were scared of the dark, the next season, the child who wandered to the edge, the noise they could not explain. Their whole brain was a super alert detector, and it fired constantly because being wrong was death. And here is the crucial fact. When the ancient human felt a racing heart at every moving shadow, it was wrong most of the time. A shadow, a branch. It was right enough. The leopard was once in 1,000 shadows. But what did it cost? It cost a life. So believing every shadow is a predator is the oldest, most correct survival practice that exists. That is the biggest thing an ancient human got right, and it gives you everything you need for the twist. You are not doomed because you are anxious. You are the receiver of the most accurate fear detector any species has ever built. It is the exact instrument that kept a leopard from eating 100,000 humans, and it still works. It just works now on the wrong inputs. Here is the code. The fear system does not care about the difference between a snake-shaped stick and a thrown message. Its whole tendency is to respond fast, respond big, and assume danger. It fires at speed, at the sudden, at the unknown. That system was evolved for the plain, where the sudden and the unknown genuinely could kill you. It is not a philosophical anxiety. It is a survival device developed for exactly the right reasons. The dread you feel when your heart spikes at the inbox is that same good animal hardware, firing 1/5, 1/10 of what the ancient hardware fired, and you, the only species that could feed it an ocean of fast virtual threats and survive, are the one feeding it. Here is the flip. The ancient human was scared of real dangers all the time, and it almost always paid off. You deleted the real dangers and kept the fear. So the ancient fear was true and it resolved. Yours is false and it never resolves. That is the whole trade. You did not get an anxious brain as a punishment. You received the whole success of the species, and you are running it against a feed, an inbox, a room, an opinion. And it is not turning off for you because there is no real danger to finally resolve. The snake, the leopard, the bear, once died the same morning you survived them. Your threats have no shape, no door, no season. They never end because there is no predator to kill, only a feed to refresh. And the sting is this. The ancient human was afraid for a real reason, and the reason could be beaten. You are afraid because a message, a title, a commitment, and the point of the modern world is not to get eaten. It's to be kept always on, for no reason, staring at a field that has been empty for 10,000 years. The landing. Here are the 3 things from the start, the prey, the night watch, and the fire, and here is what they actually meant. The prey. You were, by every measure, potential food, and you turned that into the only tool the whole animal kingdom never invented, the willingness to use fear as a message instead of a verdict. You looked at the thing that wanted to eat you, and instead of panicking into extinction, you built fire, you built the group, you built the watch, you built the dog. The prey climbed to the top. Nobody gives the prey enough credit. The prey that ended up feeding the universe. The night watch. You still work it. Every time you lie awake scanning the empty dark, you are doing the shift your ancestor did. The difference is not that you are softer. The difference is that your ancestor scanned a field with real wolves and real risks, and when the danger passed, the watch ended. Your field is empty, and you keep the watch running anyway. The fix is not to try to be less anxious. The fix is to give the sentinel a field it can actually guard. Give it real people, real work, real skills, a real future. Point the oldest, most accurate instrument on Earth at something that is actually there, and it will finally rest. The fire. You think the fire was the fire. It was not. The fire was the lit circle that said, "We, this group, are not alone in the dark." It was a promise, not a heater, and you still have the fire. Every time you sit with people who matter, every time you work on something you love, every time you hold the actual circle of your life together, the old fire is still burning. It was never the flames. It was the ring. Keep the ring. And now, the last truth, the one this whole video has been marching toward. The predators did not get more dangerous. They got more abstract. The claw became a notification. The pack became a feed. The bear became a manager with a calendar. And the strange thing is, the modern world removed the actual predators entirely, and then invented a new industry whose only job is to keep you afraid that they are coming back. The anxiety you carry is a product. It is the only product that has a revenue model and asks you to consume it forever. But you are the species that looked at the wolf and said, "You could be family." You domesticated your own predator. You lit the fire. And then you got so used to the alert that you forgot the fight was already over. You won. You won so hard you are still jumping at shadows in an empty field. The cave is lit. The wolf is asleep. The bear is a video. The grass outside the light is empty, and it has been empty for a very long time. So here is the instruction. Turn the phone down. Sit in the fire with real people. Stop checking for lions. There are no lions. Go be the thing the wolves became afraid of. Not by claw, but by the fire you built, and the strangers you turned into family, and the fear you finally pointed at a real world instead of at an empty screen. That is the whole lesson. The species the world could have eaten is the one that taught everything else to be careful. Go light something that is yours. Thanks for watching.